Man, for this, they make this flag and hat.
I thought it's normal that they just have the flags. Just
No,
like
no,
that.
no. But now too much more because before 2 days the festival, the first time make something for Amman. Yeah, one day is named the Day of Amman.
I know, we are again at the same balcony, having again the same view, but hey, we learned something new. All those flags and everything, that's for the official days of Amman. Another new thing, I'm actually gonna take you inside the building which has the balcony. It is officially one of the oldest buildings in Amman. It's a bit more than 100 years old. But you're gonna say, wait a second, this place has thousands of years of history. How come 100 is one of the oldest? Well, the lands of modern Jordan have thousands of years of history, but the modern state of Jordan, well, I promised we're going to look into that. So, it is time to talk about the history of Jordan, the state. And in order to do it, we have to, again, leave Amman and go to the west, roughly 1.5 hours, to a place which I think we can call the original Jordan capital of sorts. Welcome to a place called As-Salt. Now, the first thing you'll notice is this beautiful yellow sandstone. Most of the buildings in the historical center are built of it. And then the next thing you'll notice immediately, most of those buildings are in a very bad condition. Now, this is something that I guess happens in many places in the world. When you have a big capital, or basically a big city, it kind of drains the surrounding area of pretty much anything. Now, Salt is not small, it's 100,000 people, but metropolitan area of Amman are 6 million. And to be honest, I think Salt will become a part of the metropolitan area of Amman soon enough. Amman is creeping on it. Anyway, third thing you'll notice, even in a ruined state, those houses are beautiful. They are kind of like villas, one may say. So there's another thing. They are, I guess, very expensive in upkeep. So sometimes you're gonna see things like this. A beautiful portal. You keep the ground floor and you add the cheapest modernity on top of that. And I understand economy is an important thing, but honestly, when I see something like that, my heart just breaks. Fortunately, there are buildings which are in very good condition. Here's an example in the very center itself. And because it's in a good condition, it was chosen to be the local Salt Museum. And the building is spectacular. Outside and inside, you have this yellow sandstone combined with the white stone that we saw in Amman already. You're gonna have wrought iron and wood and even stained glass windows. So, museum or not, it was worth visiting it anyway. But the museum is there, and there's plenty of interesting information in it. So I will take you through the museum. You're gonna see a couple of interesting things. Then we're gonna go out into town, but I'm gonna use it as background for the story. The story of why we can say that modern Jordan was born in this town exactly. So in order to start, I will take you to my favorite Europa Universalis. Now look at the provinces. It is middle of the 15th century and the culture is Bedouin. All the provinces making up modern Jordan, with one example that is different. Ajlun is Syrian. Now here it actually means that they were not Bedouin, they were so-called Felahin. Felah is the word for farmer, basically. So sedentary people. But basically, we can say, middle of the 15th century already, something called full Bedouinization of the lands beyond the Jordan, so Transjordan we may say, happened. And then the Ottoman Empire came in the 16th century and nothing changed. Ottoman Empire didn't care about this little corner. It is officially within the Ottoman borders, but their power is nominal. They basically left the people here to fend for themselves, and they did. Now, the relationship between the Fellahin and the Bedouin is complicated. For example, the Bedouin would often raid the Fellahs as they were easy to raid, but also they need the Fellahs, for example, because they provide market centers to sell the Bedouin products. So in the end, they developed a very particular relationship. For example, the Fellahin are always ready to defend themselves, but it's always better to negotiate. So a very particular culture of negotiation grew over several hundred years. So that would be the situation in all of today's northwestern Jordan. But in case of Salt, there is one more important detail. People who lived here were farmers, Fellahin, yes, but Salt is in a privileged position. There are two roads leading from here to Jerusalem and Nablus in the west, two important urban centers, and you go east, you have the Badia and the Bedouin. If west wants to meet east, Salt is perfect for a market center. Plus, it's also perfect for defense. Salt is in a valley protected by three steep hills around. So, in the 18th century, Salt developed into the main market town, we can say, proto-urban space. And then comes the 19th century. The Ottoman Empire was commonly known at the time as the sick man of Europe. But the borders of the empire were not only in Europe, they were reaching till here. And then the empire decided to go through therapy. So there is something called the Tanzimat period of the middle of the 19th century, centralization and modernization of the Ottoman Empire. And they decided, centralization, you have to take control of everything within your borders. So the governor from Damascus brought an army here. Mind you, the governor of Damascus had to come here with an army. It means they had no control over this place. And when he arrived, Salt was ready to defend itself, but have I mentioned the negotiation culture? They decided to negotiate. And in the end, the governor entered the city without a fight and established here the Ottoman administration. And they started two important reforms of the Tanzimat. Application of private property of land confirmed through written legal documents and application of modern taxation system. In a region where property was not private but family or clan, in a region where there were no written laws, it was oral tradition mostly, the Tanzimat reforms were a complete revolution. In the museum, the term they used was debedouinization. So Salt becomes the first proper town because the Ottoman officers did not want to live in a hole, so they started building villas, for example. And then the merchants from Nablus understood where administration is, good business is. And they started moving here as well. And they brought the yellow sandstone, which is supposedly from around Nablus. Late 19th century, this is how Salt looks like, a proper town. Hence, we can call it the original unofficial capital of Jordan because a number of very important cultural or political traits which are still visible within modern Jordan today were developed, or at least you can find their examples here. So let me give you one extra one. We are going to visit a building which maybe you would not expect to see in Salt. Yes, we are going to visit a church. Now, supposedly, for hundreds of years, Christians and Muslims lived in Salt and around in peace and harmony. I am very skeptic about such phrases, so I started digging and I found no dirt anywhere. It looks like it's real. There was cooperation between the two religions. For hundreds of years, there was always in every district of the village, later city, at least one church. And when the governor from Damascus came with his army, when Salt sent messengers, it was Muslims and Christians together. And this is a very important trait of modern Jordan. Christians here live till the very day in relative peace, which unfortunately in that part of the world is not a common thing. So there's going to be a separate episode on the topic. Let me tell you now just one little thing I love. I think we are not used to seeing Arabic script, and church, right? We consider Arabic script Muslim. So look at this. The double-headed eagle of the Greek Byzantine emperors, and everything around written in Arabic. Fantastic. So we're gonna delve into the topic in the future in more detail, but now let me take you to a very nice cafeteria. See, the thing is, Jordanians understand very well how important salt is for their identity. So the city is actually very touristic. You will not see many people because we were smart. We came here during the week and we were kinda lucky or unlucky, depending on the point of view. The weather wasn't great. So you are not going to see many people, which is kind of a pity really, but then the city was ours. Now look at the chairs, look at the tables here. This restaurant, this cafeteria is kind of a little piece of art. The furniture here is not simply IKEA. Every single one is a piece of art, which means it's a very touristic cafeteria. But fortunately, arranged in very good taste. We liked it a lot. And also we found here something very simple, but turned out it was one of our favorite pieces of art in salt. Prepare, and here you go. Very simple and very beautiful at the same time. Unfortunately, we cannot say the same about the street art that we found in the city. That's the quality. So let's continue. As a touristic town, there were plenty of souvenir shops, some of them rather artistic, and if you were missing the baskets, well, the whole basket idea, fashion, came from Amman as well. And those baskets, in the end, led us to our favorite shop / art gallery. And let me tell you this. Unfortunately, we did not have a lot of time. We had just half a day, so we were pretty much running around like crazy. So we used the opportunity here to finally rest a bit. Especially that we were treated to, I told you already, a very important experience in Jordan. We were treated to tea. Fantastic as well. But now that I mentioned tea, let's mention coffee, but not as a drink. What you see in front of you, practically all of that art was done with roasted coffee beans. Literally, roasted coffee beans were used to create all this art. By the way, when they roasting coffee, they take it seriously. Pretty awesome, hey? So now I'm gonna show you the name of the artist if you'd like to find him on the internet, and those pieces were also one of our favorites that we found in Salt. Of course, I need to show you our little perversion, so all the doors and handles and wrought iron and whatnot, but after watching all of this, you may still be asking, is salt really that important? Well, don't take it from me, take it from UNESCO. 2 years ago, UNESCO inscribed salt in the World Heritage List as a unique in the region example of cooperation between cultures and religions, and the source of modern Jordanian identity. But as important as it is time to say goodbye to salt, and we're gonna go to a place I promised that we need to come back to. Episode 1, we were in Azraq, and here we are again. And the reason we had to come back here is a very particular group of people, the so-called Druze. So let me show you the map again. Once again, we have southern Syria, this Jebel al-Arab, the Arab mountain, and next to it there's a town called Suwaida. So now, Europa Universalis again, because you have a province called Suwaida here. Look at the religion. Here it is as Shia. So, one thing. Another, Azraq is part of Suwaida here, and you can actually create Syria out of Azraq. What is going on here? Well, first of all, in terms of administration, Azraq for hundreds of years belonged to modern southern Syria, to Suwaida. But the more important thing is the religion. Suwaida was Shia, which is kinda right, kinda wrong. The Druze, if you start reading officially, is a religion from the 10th, 11th century, separating from a Shiite sect called the Ismailites. But they are pretty much a separate religion now, and it is worth underlining it that both the Druze and their Muslim neighbors do not consider the Druze Muslim. And you see it straight up walking around the streets of Azraq North. There are no mosques here in the old center. Well, today I say Azraq North, but for many, many years the name of this place was Azraq Druze. It is a town pretty much built by the Druze people, but they did not begin living around here in this nice little neighborhood. The first families who started coming roughly 100 years ago lived in the ruins of the castle. So here you're gonna have a drawing with names of all the families, which part of the castle they lived in. So all those portals that you see around the castle, those little spaces, those are not castle chambers or something. Those are the apartments, the houses of the Druze families from 100 years ago. And the first ones started coming during the Ottoman Empire. Why would they come here? And again, the same term, Bedouinization. For the Ottoman Empire, it was important that sedentary people come to, for example, Transjordan to, well, introduce settled life, because then you have more people owning land as private property, and that means taxation, and that means more money in the coffers in Istanbul for the empire. And mind you, I think it comes as no surprise that the local Bedouin were not very happy about it, so there were skirmishes. That's why the first Druze families lived here. That wasn't out of commodity, it was for protection. But then comes the 20s, 30s, the time of Transjordan under the British mandate. So first of all, security, especially in the 30s, improved, but maybe more important, Syria was under the French mandate, and plenty of people in Syria started fighting for independence, and among them were many Druze. So when they lost, many of the Druze started escaping, coming, for example, here. So another thing that happened, there were too many Druze to actually live in the castle, and they started building the town around. And mind you, many of the Druze coming in the 20s, 30s were intellectuals and city dwellers. Intellectuals, we're gonna go back to the story later. When it comes to city dwellers, it is obvious from the very first second. When I arrived here, first thing I noticed, there's actually a city center where you have all the main streets converging, you have restaurants, you have shops. It's an actual city built by people who know how city life and architecture works. And after coming from the east, that was obvious. Plus, I found this nice little corner here, my favorite part of Azraq. Actually, I don't know what it is. I think it's some kind of a cultural / educational center. Anyway, it was a very pretty place. Now, you won't see too many people. I have no idea why the city was pretty much empty, but you already met two Druze people. The two gentlemen I interviewed in the first episode, both were Druze. I actually wanted to also speak with the religious leader of the community. Unfortunately, he was not in town. But anyway, we are in a very pretty place, so again, let me use it as background to comment on, I think, two very important things. One is that I have a feeling that the Druze still live a bit in their own bubble, and there is some kind of still enmity between them and the Bedouin. I told you it was very difficult to come here from the east. There was no public transport. There was no connection to a town only 50 kilometers away. I think there are reasons for that. They kind of live next to each other, not together exactly. But at the same time, I also need to strongly underline another thing. The Druze live here in peace for 100 years now, and that's not exactly common in their history, as they were very often heavily persecuted. So there's hardly any connection to the Bedouin till the very day, but there is peace. And actually they don't live alone anymore. In the background, the white bits, that's the Muslim cemetery. In the foreground, in black basalt, that's the Druze cemetery. So now, as you can see, they are mixed, hence it is not called Azraq Druze anymore, but Azraq North. So I guess it's no surprise when we go to Azraq South and I tell you that's not the original name either. It was called Azraq Chechen. Yep, the Chechen people are here for a very simple reason. Their issues with Russia is not only the 90s of the last century, it's 150 years now. So at the beginning of persecutions, when they started escaping from their homeland as Muslims, they would come to the Ottoman Empire, some of them more than 100 years ago, and from those books they were learning Arabic. In particular, the father of this young gentleman here. So he's gonna tell you their story.
I am Uthman Dawlat Mirza Checheni from Chechnya. My grandfather and my father comes from Chechnya before 120 years. They reached Jordan in 1903. They established Zarqa first, and after they finished their building houses and making farms, when they finish everything, they begin to make the best of their life. So they continue for 10 years only. After that, my father remembers that he want to breed buffaloes, white buffaloes, and he give permission, he have permission from their leader in that time, and to establish a new village to the east of Zarqa, because we have here water ponds and very beautiful places with trees, everything you can find here, birds, everything is living here. So they came here in 1922 and established Azraq. So they stay in Azraq. My father works in his farm and he breed the buffaloes. All the people of Azraq breed the buffaloes. Next year, 1923, some people comes from Suela to Azraq, but they, the main road in which passes from Azraq, the west, they built their houses to the west of this road. So it is very good chance for them to make a very beautiful cooperation life. The people to the eastern part of Azraq, they breed buffaloes. The western part of Azraq, they breed cows. The buffaloes give birth babies in September. They continue giving milk until March, April. In that time, we here, my father and my mother, come Uthman, give this milk to the family who have cows. The cows give born babies in March and April. They give milk until September. So we give them as a cooperation life. We give them milk and the milk productions, cheese and everything. Give them in the time their cows don't have milk. In the time of that the buffaloes don't have milk, the cows give milk, so they send to us the milk and the products. When we need to eat meat, we get a buffalo's one buffalo and give meat to all the people of Azraq, and this way we live together as cooperation life in Azraq. In that time it was very, very beautiful life, because everything was very, very simple and naturally, everything very simple. Some problems happened between Saudi Arabia and Jordanian area in that time, because they were establishing Saudi Arabia and Jordan were the beginning of to establish this country. So there are some problems in that time. So the British army tried to get rid of the Chechens from this area, because some problems happened on the border of Saudi Arabia. But my father was friend for Prince Abdullah. So my father takes his friends, go to castle of the Abir and tell them that this British army making problems with us. So if you please solve this problem with us. So they said, this Azraq is Chechen Azraq. Nobody can do anything in Azraq. Your job is with military and these people. You don't have to make any problems with these people. So in 1930, they called Azraq Chechen Azraq. So from that time until now, this is Azraq Chechen. In 1922, Chechens come here, establish this Azraq. In the same time, or in 1919, the Druze, our neighbors, comes from Syria to live in Azraq. So we were neighbors and lived together for more than 70 years together as one family. Very cooperation life between Azraq Chechen and Azraq Druze. My father, at the beginning when he established Zarqa, he began to establish a school. He was the teacher. So he teach the children of Chechens Arabic language and the Quran. When he traveled to Azraq and established Azraq, he make the same way. So he built a small room for school, and he bring all the Chechens children from this village to his house and teach them the Arabic language and the Quran. So this was our life. We depend on breeding buffaloes, hunting fish from water, hunting birds, and after that we used to bring exactly the table salt. It helps the Chechens in their life at that time. But in these years, it was a very developing age, and we changed it. Azraq became as a center location for between the Saudi Arabia and the Gulf and Iraq, which the roads go to these countries and to Jordan. So everything is traveled, is developed in Azraq, not like in the past.
So there you go. That's the story of the Chechen in Azraq. Basically, the gentleman has at home kind of a little museum with, for example, what you're seeing right now. Models of carts they were using 100 years ago to come here. But I think more important is to go several hundred meters beyond his house, and you're gonna find what we visited in episode number 1, the wetlands. Truly the most important inheritance of the Chechen is the water buffalo. They disappeared in the 90s with the wetlands, and they reappeared with the wetlands. So supposedly when you have such little tunnels, that's because water buffaloes were roaming through there. But if that's not enough, in the wetlands you also find such houses. That's basically for bird watching. And you may of course ask, what about the architecture? Why is it like this? Well, that's because, as you see in the model here, that's how the Chechens were building their houses 100 years ago. And now that we have some water in front of you, one extra photo, Mr. Othman is on the left. So he does remember the place being wetlands truly. And he does remember because he is 80, but he doesn't lack energy, so let him speak in his native tongue now.
نخشي أزرقي أول يرتاح سيوت ينهر مقابلة حيث دي الخبر دي سنة سون هنا خزاخيتي شو هون بركل حصول شو أم سون هنا خزخيتي دال بوكش وتين هون ديال ريز خل هون.
That's how Chechen language sounds like. But let's go back to English for a moment more.
So we hope peace for all the people of the world. We like peace. We hope peace for all the nations of the world, because we faced many battles, many killing, but very troubles in the past. So we hope to for all the people of the world, peace and love, and continue as one family in the world.
Amen, brother. And I have a new goal in life. I want to have such spark in the eyes and such smile when I am 80. Unfortunately, we are going to finish the story here with a bit of a sad twist. As Mr. Othman said, the town has become pretty much a huge truck pit stop. The main street of the town is lined with restaurants for truckers, so in order to convince them everything's fresh, they butcher and skin the sheep in front of the restaurants in plain view in the main street. Yummy. Anyway, the business must be doing well because there are plenty of newcomers, so to be honest, Azraq South it's a bit ugly and it's not Azraq Shishan anymore, it is Azraq South. Now let me take you to another troublesome town, a town mentioned already, Zarqa. The town founded by the Chechen at the beginning of the 20th century. Here is a photo from the Turkish time still. Unfortunately, Zarqa today is known for Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. So from Zarqa, think of him as godfather of ISIS. Not very good marketing, right? Well, Zarqa today is a big industrial town. That means they have slums. Poverty means radicalization. And it's still supposedly a bit of an issue in town. But we are not there for that. Although the city was founded by the Chechen, there is today here a very interesting person from another Caucasus minority. That is why everywhere around the house you have the same symbol, those arrows and stars. Fortunately, that's no radical group, it is the symbol of the Cherkess or Circassians, a half-forgotten nation from northwestern Caucasus, basically where you have today Sochi and Krasnodar. Yep, that was before Circassia, or as they would say, Adige. They were in the 19th century pretty much exterminated by Russia. There are historians who say today that's the first modern genocide actually. Fortunately, some of them survived, mostly because they started running. As Chechens, they are also Muslim, so they also mostly ran to the Ottoman Empire of the time. And we are going to talk about them because they funded a very important place. But before that, I think you noticed already, we are again in something which looks like a private museum, right? So let's meet the owner.
My name is Adnan Bezador. I born in Zarqa. I'm Cherkessian. My family of my father came from Adige, from near Mykob. My mother is from Kabardino-Balkaria. The beginning, the Cherkessian, they came from Caucasus. They leave his land, they go to the Turkish city, Ankara, Istanbul, Izmir, like this. Other people, they take him, especially for the road of the train from Istanbul to Mecca. They look like the security keep for the train. After they are the people, they started, they have government, they have Jordanian government, they working honestly with the government, in the police, in the army, somebody, they working outside the high, and they are really, they are Cherkessian honest in their job. If the Cherkessian in Syria, he worked for the Syrian government. In Jordan, he worked with the government Jordan. You put him in any country, he honest with the country, he worked with him, yeah, without any problem. For this, they work all the time, and well, now until now we still keep it for our language, keeping our dancing, our everything for the culture. And for me, my job is it's not normal. not in Jordan, I think, not in the Middle East. I see in the Caucasus. I keep all the documents, the book they write about the Cherkessian, Arabic, English, in Cherkessian, in French, in Turkish language, all the language. I keep it, the book and the document for the somebody they want to make a book, or he may write a report, or somebody they want to, in the university and study also. If you write anything about the Jordan, you must beginning the Cherkessian. You must, because this is the beginning of the starting Jordan. Maybe I make something is different if I am very clever. Maybe they put it in Guinness. What you make? What I make it? I make one show in the Gulf in Aqaba, under the sea. I take the material Cherkessian, what they are using the Cherkessian, I go and I diving with down, I put it in the near the coral, down in here, and I ask for the tourist diving in Aqaba. This is from Poland, this is from Holland, this is Germany, Italy. Please come looking for the Cherkessian museum. They come with them. I tell him, down in the sea, you must diving. We diving, make sure. This is fantastic, and no one here try to make it. Yeah, for this, my life, I work maybe and now until more 14 years. When I am children, the other people, friend, maybe playing some liking football, or they like another collection money. The other, my favorite, I collection information about the Cherkessian. This is my life. I hope anybody visit me. I am very, very happy also.
Yep, Mr. Adnan was not exaggerating a bit when he says it is his life. He has a house of 3 stories. It's completely filled with everything Caucasian. And I just showed you a bit or two. I'm definitely not going to show you the whole place, because that would take hours or days. I have no idea. But it is truly impressive. Thousands upon thousands of items are here. So, because that's a bit too many to show you in one little video, let me show you what I consider some highlights. So, for example, here you have a very nice representative saber on display. Next thing, of course, we're gonna have a typical Caucasian house from 100 years ago. We're gonna have plenty of symbolism, so flags, for example, plus Mr. Adnan when he was young. Pretty boy, right? But then another very important symbol, samovar, for making tea. Have I mentioned that tea is important here? Of course, we had some tea. But my absolute favorite is actually a work of Mr. Adnan's brother. So the scene that you have here is made of some kind of like very thin silver thread. I think you can see it well enough now. So that's all great and everything, but I hear you asking, why are we here? Well, we are here because Caucasians funded Amman. Yep, this is Amman in the middle of 19th century. There was nothing. And then 70s, 80s, the Caucasians started coming and they started living literally in the ruins of the Roman theater. It is only after some time, when the community started growing, that they started building houses around. So the town slowly started growing. Now, why the Chechens and Caucasians here? Well, the Bedouinization again. Ottoman Empire would use those immigrant groups to settle places which need to be settled. Also, people from the Caucasus are rather warlike, so it was known they will hold their own against Bedouin raids, which pretty much is what happened. So if you want to have roots of modern Jordan, you have to start looking within the times of the Ottoman Empire. But then, First World War, Ottoman Empire with Germany, so the British started using modern Arab nationalism to ferment what happened to be the Great Arab Revolt. The leader officially was Sharif, so protector of Mecca, Hussein. He was from a Hashemite family, 1000 years in Mecca, and they have among ancestors the family of the Prophet. So huge prestige among the Arabs. Many of them joined the revolt. One of the reasons why it kind of won, meaning Ottoman Empire is out of the Levant, but the British, per usual, kind of cheated everybody around. That's another topic for a separate episode. As of now, the important bit is the Brits wanted to give something to the family of the Sharif for helping with the revolt, so they created a couple of countries. 1921, under their mandate, the Emirate of Transjordan was created, and Amir, so Prince, was one of the sons of the Sharif Hussein, Abdallah. And from him stems the dynasty of Jordan of today. The best way to introduce them is through money. So 1 dinar is Sharif Hussein, once again the official head of the Arab revolt. Then 5 dinars is Abdallah, who was Amir and then the first king of independent Jordan. Then 10 dinars is his son Talal, who was only king for 1 year, but during that year, for example, he managed to introduce the Jordanian constitution. And then 20 dinars is Hussein, who was only 18 when assuming throne, and here he is going for the coronation. And then he died in 1999, and his son Abdallah II, 50 dinars, is the king till the very day, so you are going to see him everywhere in Jordan, alone with his father and son, or also often with the whole family. So with that introduction out of the way, let's go to the main mosque in downtown Amman from the 20s, 30s. It was built by Amir Abdallah, so 5 dinars, in memory of his father, Sharif Hussein, 1 dinar. And again, I'm going to use it as background for a very important issue. How do you build a country from scratch? There was no Jordan, there were no Jordanians. How do you create a country? One of the most important things to understand how it works is the royal family itself. Once again, Hashemites, they count the family of the Prophet among the ancestors. They have huge prestige among the people. Look at the flag of Jordan. You have the 3 ancient caliphates, and the red color is the Hashemites. That's not megalomania. This is how many people see it. So prestige is huge, but you have to keep building it kinda literally. So now you have a beautiful blue dome of another mosque. It's from the 80s. So that's the King Hussein from 20 dinars, and actually on the money next to the king himself you can see the building. He built this mosque in memory of his grandfather Abdallah I, and that's pretty much how it works. You have to build a mosque for your ancestor to build prestige of the whole dynasty. So Abdallah II of today also built a mosque in memory of his father Hussein. Unfortunately, we had no time to go there, but coming here was enough. It is an awesome place. 3,000 people can squeeze in, but my absolute favorite are the minarets, because they remind me of the mace that Sauron was holding in his hand in The Lord of the Rings. Brutalism architecture rules. But then right next to it, you have another building. Wait a second, looks like a church. What is going on? You have one of the most important mosques in the country, and just across the street you have a church? Yeah, you do. This is the Coptic Church, so the Egyptian Christians, and it is a very powerful symbol of something I mentioned before, cooperation between the Muslims and Christians in Jordan. That wasn't enough? Every king of Jordan is the official protector of the holy sites in Jerusalem for both religions, Islam and Christianity. And this is another very important detail to understand how to create a country from scratch. You have to cooperate with all the minorities you have within the country and use the abilities they have for the good of everybody. Let's go through the minorities we had today. So the Druze. The first prime minister of Transjordan in 1921 is Rashid Talia, a Lebanese Druze. I mentioned they were intellectuals. There you go. I mentioned people from the Caucasus are warlike. When the Arab Legion, so the army of Transjordan, was created, originally 80% of the soldiers were Chechen. But here is the best example. We are back to Mr. Adnan's private museum. Now look at this black uniform. Look closely, keep it in mind, and now the photos. Here you go. What happened is, when Amman was chosen as capital, Circassians became the royal guard of Amir Abdallah, and it remained till today. They are the royal guard of Jordanian kings. And actually, all three minorities are present. The Druze are basically 50,000 people. They keep kinda apart, but they are there in politics or economy, for example. The Chechen are 50,000 as well. The Circassians 100,000, but they are more visible, for example, because they still very much participate in police or the army, as you can see here. But also they have 3 places guarded in the Jordanian parliament. So not only men actually make interesting careers, females do as well in military, or not only. The first female member of parliament was also Circassian. So here's the twist. You have minorities who are persecuted everywhere else. Here, they're not only not persecuted, but they take part in building the country from scratch, and they become important parts of the national identity of the country. I believe this is a unique story on the scale of the world. And I have to tell you, both me and Vicky, we are absolutely fascinated by it. Not only us. Now you're gonna see Hussein, so the heir to the throne. He likes Circassian guards so much, he supposedly learned the language from them. And now that I mentioned Circassian language,
استوشت بسوري ان شاء الله بسوري دغس سا اديقام سبسو يردانيا مشش سا بسوري ست تكاهر يا اديقها مشحيه رسمها دوكيومنتها بسوري سيغهر يبلاغها تنا يقدحها يتلغونو اديقها مشحيه بسوري حزر.
Now Mr. Adnan, I think, is a bit of a star here, dancing a traditional Circassian dance in Wadi Ram. He likes social media as well. Find him on Instagram or Facebook. But we are going to unwind in Circassian style. We found a restaurant called Samawer, so the samovar for making tea. And guess what? With our plan so packed, we came very late, just before they were closing. So we had like 15-20 minutes only, and that's why just a short video, just a couple of photos. But that's it. Our days, and there were 4 of them in Amman, were completely packed. I think you noticed watching all the episodes. So it's time to unwind, truly. Well, not really. Food is food, but we found the cultural center around the block with some amazing Circassian modern art. So that's it. This is it. Thank you very much for your attention. And it is time to unwind, truly. But we're not gonna unwind in Amman. We're gonna go north. And in the north, pure relaxing. Or is it? Maybe there's gonna be actually a lot of dancing. See you soon.